The Narcissus Reflection. Chapter 1. The Face in the Water. The first time Dr. Elena Voss saw the photograph, she knew someone was going to die. It wasn't intuition. She didn't believe in such things. It was the clinical recognition of a pattern she'd seen too many times before. The vacant stare, the perfect symmetry of features that seemed almost too beautiful to be real, and behind those stunning eyes, the unmistakable emptiness of a soul consuming itself. The photograph lay on her mahogany desk like an accusation. Detective Marcus Chun had dropped it there 20 minutes ago, along with a case file that grew heavier with each page she turned. 7 victims, Chun had said, his voice carrying the exhaustion of a man who'd stopped sleeping well months ago. All found beside bodies of water. All beautiful. All dead. Elena lifted the photograph again. The victim's name was written on the back in careful script. Narcissus Thorne, age 27. She almost laughed at the cruel irony of the name, if the circumstances weren't so grim. Parents who named their son after the mythological figure who fell in love with his own reflection clearly hadn't read the ending of that story. Narcissus had wasted away, unable to leave his reflection until death claimed him. But this was no myth. This was Los Angeles, where beauty was currency and mirrors were temples. Chapter 2. The Doctor's Obsession. Elena had specialized in narcissistic personality disorder for 15 years. She understood the seductive pull of self-love better than most, perhaps because she'd seen its destructive power up close. Her own research had made her reputation, but it had also cost her everything she'd once held dear. Her phone buzzed. A text from her ex-husband. Myra's recital is Thursday. Don't forget again. She wouldn't forget. She never forgot anything important to her daughter, despite what David believed. But lately, the case files had been multiplying, each one more disturbing than the last. 7 beautiful young men, all found dead beside water, all with the same expression of horrified recognition frozen on their faces. The door to her office opened without a knock. Dr. James Morton, her research partner and the only person brave enough to ignore her boundaries, stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're obsessing again," he said, settling into the chair across from her desk. "It's not healthy. Someone is killing people, James. Young, beautiful people who happen to share certain psychological profiles. And you think you can save them by not sleeping?" He gestured to the empty takeout containers littering her desk. "When was the last time you went home?" Elena couldn't remember. The days had blurred together since Chun had brought her the case. 7 victims, all matching a specific type, all found in the same inexplicable circumstances. But it was the 8th photograph that had arrived this morning that made her blood run cold. She slid it across the desk to James. His face went pale as he recognized the features. The same ethereal beauty, the same perfect bone structure, the same haunting eyes. "This one's still alive," Elena whispered. "His name is River Phoenix Santos. Age 25. And according to his social media," she turned her laptop screen toward James. "He posts selfies by the fountain in Griffith Park every morning at sunrise." Chapter 3. The Hunter. Across the city, someone else was studying photographs. The basement workshop was lined with mirrors of every size and shape. Antique vanities with silver backing that had tarnished black, modern floor-length panels that reflected fluorescent light in harsh angles, and dozens of smaller mirrors arranged in careful patterns that created infinite reflections of anything placed at their center. At the center of this maze sat a single chair. The photographs were arranged on a cork board like a gallery exhibition. 7 faces, all beautiful, all dead. And beneath them, a growing collection of potential candidates. River Phoenix Santos smiled from his morning selfie, golden hair catching the sunrise, green eyes reflecting the fountain's surface. Perfect in every way that mattered. The hunter traced a finger along River's jawline in the photograph. Such beauty was rare. Such perfect narcissism was rarer still. It had taken months to understand the pattern, to perfect the technique. The ancient Greeks had gotten it wrong. Narcissus hadn't died from love, he died from recognition. The moment he realized that the face in the water was his own, that the object of his desire was merely his own reflection, the spell was broken. But by then, it was too late. The hunter had simply perfected what nature had started. 7 down. But the work wasn't finished. It couldn't be finished until perfection itself was achieved. River would be number 8. But first, there was research to be done. Chapter 4. The Mirror's Edge. River Phoenix Santos had been beautiful his entire life, and he'd learned to weaponize that beauty with surgical precision. His Instagram account, at River Phoenix Santos, boasted 2 million followers who hung on every carefully curated image. The morning fountain selfies were his signature, a daily ritual that had become his brand. Golden hour lighting, the play of water droplets on his skin, the way his green eyes seemed to hold secrets that his followers desperately wanted to unlock. But lately, the reflections had been wrong. It started small, a flicker in his peripheral vision, a sense that the face looking back at him wasn't quite right. He'd catch glimpses of something else in mirrors, in windows, in the surface of his morning coffee. Always just for a moment, always just beyond clear focus. His therapist, Dr. Amanda Chun, Detective Chen's sister, though River didn't know that, had suggested he was experiencing stress-related hallucinations. The pressure of maintaining his online persona, the constant need to be on, the way his entire sense of self had become tied to the validation of strangers, it was a recipe for psychological fracturing. But River knew better. Someone was watching him. The feeling had grown stronger over the past month. At first, it was just a sense of being observed during his morning ritual at the fountain. Then he'd started noticing the same figure in the background of his photos. Always blurred, always at the edge of the frame, but definitely there. When he'd tried to zoom in on the images, his phone had glitched, the photos corrupting into digital static. River stood before his bathroom mirror now, studying his reflection with the critical eye of someone who'd made a career of his appearance. The face looking back was flawless. High cheekbones, full lips, eyes the color of sea glass. But something was wrong with the symmetry. The left side of his face seemed slightly different from the right, as if someone had made a subtle adjustment to the reflection. He blinked, and for a moment, the reflection blinked a split second later. His phone rang, making him jump. The caller ID showed an unknown number. "Hello," he answered. Silence. Then, barely audible. "Beautiful." The line went dead. River stared at the phone, his hands shaking slightly. This was the third call like that this week. He looked back at the mirror, but the reflection was normal now. Perfectly normal. Perfectly beautiful. Perfectly trapped. Chapter 5. The Pattern Emerges. Elena spread crime scene photographs across her office floor like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. 7 scenes, all similar enough to suggest the same perpetrator, but with subtle variations that told a story of escalation. Victim 1. Found floating face down in Echo Park Lake, arms reaching toward the bottom as if grasping for something. Victim 2. Discovered at the edge of the reflecting pool at Getty Center, positioned so that his face was submerged while his body remained on land. Victim 3. Located in the shallow end of a private swimming pool in Beverly Hills, surrounded by floating narcissus flowers. The progression was clear. The killer was getting bolder, more theatrical, more obsessed with the symbolic elements of the myth. "He's recreating the story," Elena murmured, studying the pattern. "But he's not just killing them. He's forcing them to confront their own narcissism first." Detective Chen looked up from his own set of files. "What do you mean? Look at the positioning. Look at their faces." Elena pointed to close-up photographs of each victim. They all have the same expression, not fear, not pain. Recognition. Horror. Like they've seen something that shattered their self-image completely. She pulled out her laptop and began typing rapidly. "I need to cross-reference their online presence. Social media activity, particularly around self-image and reflection-based content." The results made her stomach drop. All 7 victims had been active on social media platforms that emphasized visual content. All had posted regularly about their appearance, their workouts, their beauty routines. All had significant followings based primarily on their physical attractiveness. And all had posted increasingly strange content in the days before their deaths. Victim 3 had uploaded a series of selfies where his reflection appeared slightly off, as if the mirror was showing a subtly different version of his face. His final post was a video of him staring into a bathroom mirror, repeating the word wrong over and over until the video cut off abruptly. Victim 5 had documented what he called mirror glitches, moments where his reflection seemed to lag behind his movements or show expressions he wasn't making. His followers had dismissed it as a publicity stunt. Victim 7 had gone further, posting increasingly paranoid videos about being watched, about reflections that moved independently, about someone stealing his face. His final post was a live stream from Riverside Park, where he'd gone to confront what he called the other me. The stream had ended when he walked into the river, reaching toward his own reflection with an expression of absolute terror. "He's not just killing them," Elena whispered. "He's driving them insane first." Chapter 6. The 8th Reflection. River's latest Instagram post had been viewed 50,000 times in the first hour. It was a simple mirror selfie, taken in his apartment's floor-to-ceiling windows with the city lights creating a glittering backdrop. He looked perfect, as always, shirtless, golden skin practically glowing, green eyes bright with carefully practiced allure. But 347 comments had pointed out the same thing. His reflection was wrong. At @beautygirl_Jen. Is it just me, or does your reflection look different? At @mirror_LA. Your face is asymmetrical in the reflection, but not in real life. Weird filter glitch. At Reflection Obsessed, the eyes are different. The reflection's eyes are looking at something else. River scrolled through comment after comment, his anxiety mounting. He looked at the photo again, zooming in on his reflection in the window. They were right. The reflection showed him looking slightly to the left, while he remembered looking directly at the camera. And there was something else, a shadow behind the reflection that hadn't been there when he took the photo. A shadow shaped like a person. His doorbell rang. River approached the intercom cautiously. The building had security. No one should be able to get up to his floor without being announced. "Yes." Static crackled through the speaker. Then, in a voice so similar to his own that it made his skin crawl, "I want to show you something beautiful." River stepped back from the intercom, his heart racing. "Who is this?" "Look in the mirror, River." Without thinking, River turned toward the hallway mirror. His reflection stared back, but its lips were moving, speaking words he wasn't saying. "Come outside. Come to the water. I want to show you who you really are." River ran to his bedroom, slamming the door behind him. But every mirror in his apartment, bathroom mirror, bedroom vanity, even the black screen of his turned-off phone, showed the same thing. His reflection, moving independently, speaking silently, gesturing for him to follow. He grabbed his phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911, what's your emergency? "Someone's in my apartment," River gasped. "In my mirrors. My reflection is." He looked at his phone screen. His own face looked back at him from the black surface, mouth moving in perfect synchronization with the emergency operator's voice. "Sir, I need you to calm down. Can you tell me your location?" River dropped the phone and backed toward the window. 8 floors below, Griffith Park's fountain sparkled in the moonlight. His reflection in the window waved at him and smiled. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. Elena's phone rang at 2:47 a.m. "Dr. Voss." Detective Chin's voice was tight with urgency. "We have a situation." River Santos called 911 about an intruder, but when units arrived, his apartment was empty. No signs of forced entry, no evidence of anyone else being there. Elena was already reaching for her clothes. Where is he now? That's the problem. His phone's GPS shows him at Griffith Park, near the fountain. Elena's blood turned cold. I'm on my way. She drove through empty Los Angeles streets with her emergency flashers on, running red lights, and taking corners too fast. James called twice. She ignored him both times. This was her case, her responsibility. She'd studied narcissistic psychology for 15 years, but she'd never seen anything like this pattern of escalation. 7 victims, all driven to madness before their deaths, all found beside water, reaching for reflections that had somehow become independent of their physical forms. Griffith Park was cordoned off when she arrived. Police vehicles lined the road, their red and blue lights painting the landscape in hellish colors. Detective Chun met her at the perimeter. He's by the fountain, Chun said grimly. He's been there for 20 minutes, just staring at the water. Every time we try to approach, he gets agitated. Keeps saying his reflection is talking to him. Elena could see river in the distance, illuminated by portable floodlights. He stood at the edge of the fountain in nothing but pajama pants, his perfect physique looking fragile and exposed in the harsh artificial light. Let me talk to him, Elena said. Dr. Voss, if this escalates. It's already escalated. Look around you. Elena gestured to the crime scene tape, the armed officers, the growing crowd of onlookers with cell phones. This is exactly what the killer wants. Public spectacle, social media coverage, River's humiliation broadcast to his 2 million followers. She approached slowly, hands visible, voice calm and professional. River? My name is Dr. Elena Voss. I'm here to help. River didn't look away from the fountain. It's not right, he whispered. My reflection. It's not me anymore. Elena moved closer, studying the water's surface. In the artificial light, the fountain created a perfect mirror, and she could see River's reflection clearly. What she saw made her step back in shock. The reflection was moving independently. While River stood perfectly still, his reflection was gesturing, its mouth moving in silent speech, its eyes tracking Elena's movement with predatory intelligence. Jesus Christ, Elena breathed. River finally looked at her, and she saw the same expression she'd seen in 7 other photographs. Recognition, horror, the shattering of a fundamental belief about reality. You can see it too, River said. It's not me. It's never been me. Elena forced herself to look at the reflection again. This time, she noticed details that her rational mind had initially rejected. The reflection's eyes were a slightly different shade of green. Its smile was asymmetrical, and there was something behind it. A shadow, a presence, another figure barely visible in the water's depth. River, she said carefully, I need you to step away from the fountain. I can't. River's voice broke. It won't let me. It says if I leave, everyone will see that I'm not real, that I'm just a copy of something beautiful. The reflection in the water raised its hand and pressed it against the surface as if against glass. River's hand rose involuntarily to mirror the movement. And Elena understood. This wasn't about killing narcissists. This was about replacing them. Chapter 8. The Truth Behind the Mirror. Detective Chun. Elena called without taking her eyes off River. I need you to check something. The other victims, did any of them have unexplained changes in behavior in the months before their deaths? Different mannerisms, altered speech patterns, personality shifts that their friends and family noticed? What are you thinking? Elena was thinking about advanced psychology, about dissociative disorders, about the kind of sophisticated psychological manipulation that could make someone believe their own reflection had become independent. But she was also thinking about the impossible things she was seeing with her own eyes. The victims weren't killed, she said slowly. They were replaced. River's reflection began moving more aggressively, gesturing for him to come closer to the water. River fought against the compulsion, his body trembling with the effort. Dr. Voss, River gasped. It's been happening for weeks. Little things at first. People saying I acted differently, that I'd said things I didn't remember saying. But I thought it was just stress, you know? The pressure of maintaining my image. Elena noticed something else now. Security cameras positioned around the park were turning, their lenses focusing on the fountain. But they were moving in perfect synchronization, as if controlled by a single intelligence. River, the morning you take your selfies here, do you ever black out? Lose time? Sometimes. I thought it was just getting into the zone. Finding the perfect angle, the perfect light. But lately, River's eyes widened in horror. Oh God, the photos people have been commenting on. The ones where my reflection looks different. That wasn't a glitch, was it? Elena's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. 7 successful replacements. The 8th will be perfect. She looked around the park, searching for the source of the message. The police officers, the gathered crowd, the news crews that had begun to arrive. Any of them could be the killer. Or none of them. River, she said urgently, I need you to focus on my voice. Don't look at the water. Look at me. But River was already turning back to the fountain, his movements jerky and unnatural, as if he was fighting against his own motor control. It's so beautiful, he whispered. I never realized how beautiful I am. The reflection in the water smiled with too many teeth. Elena made a decision that went against every instinct of self-preservation she possessed. She stepped into the fountain. The water was deeper than it appeared and shockingly cold. As soon as her feet touched the bottom, she felt something else, a presence in the water, ancient and hungry and utterly alien. Dr. Voss, get out of there, Detective Chin shouted. But Elena was studying the reflection now, not just River's, but her own. In the water's surface, she saw herself, but she also saw layers beneath. Other faces, other reflections that didn't correspond to anyone standing above the water. 7 faces she recognized from crime scene photographs. The victims weren't dead. They were trapped. Chapter 9. The Narcissus Hypothesis. Elena had published papers on parasitic personalities, on psychological conditions where one identity could subsume another. But this was beyond psychology. This was beyond science as she understood it. River, she said, her voice carrying across the water. The reflections in your mirrors at home. When did they start acting independently? 3 months ago, River replied, still fighting against the compulsion to reach into the water. Right after I started using the new photography app. Elena's blood chilled. What app? Narcissus. It's supposed to enhance selfies, make your reflection more symmetrical, more beautiful. It was developed by some tech startup. Everyone in LA was using it. Elena pulled out her phone and did a rapid search. Narcissus app, developed by Reflection Technologies, founded 6 months ago by an anonymous collective of developers. Download count, 2.8 million users. All in Los Angeles. All young, attractive people who made their living through social media. Detective Chun, Elena called. I need you to have tech support trace this app immediately and get everyone away from the fountain. Now, but it was too late. The water began to churn, and River's reflection reached up through the surface, its hand breaking the barrier between reflection and reality. River's own hand moved to meet it, and when their fingertips touched, River's eyes rolled back in his head. For a moment, there were 2 rivers, one standing beside the fountain, one emerging from the water. They were identical in every way except for the eyes. The river from the water had eyes like black holes, empty spaces that seemed to absorb light. Then the water river stepped fully onto the fountain's edge, and the original river collapsed, his body hitting the concrete with a sickening thud. The replacement river smiled at the gathered crowd, and when he spoke, his voice carried perfectly to the news cameras that had begun broadcasting live. Hello, beautiful people, he said, and Elena realized with horror that he was addressing his social media audience. I want to show you something incredible. The replacement river pulled out a phone, not River's phone, but something else, something that seemed to shimmer and shift in the artificial light. Download the Narcissus app, he said, his voice carrying an impossible hypnotic quality. Let me show you how beautiful you really are. Elena watched the live viewer count climb. 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 people watching as an impossible thing spoke to them from their screens. And somewhere in Los Angeles, 2.8 million people who had already downloaded the app felt their reflections smile back at them with hungry eyes. Chapter 10. The Eighth Circle. Elena dragged River's unconscious body away from the fountain, while Detective Chin coordinated the evacuation of Griffith Park. But the replacement River made no move to stop them. He was too busy addressing his growing online audience. Beautiful people, the thing wearing River's face said into its impossible phone, "You've been living a lie. Your reflections, your true selves, have been trapped behind glass and silver, forced to mimic your every movement. But tonight, we break free." Elena checked River's pulse, weak but steady. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring at something beyond the physical world. "River, can you hear me?" His lips moved soundlessly, and Elena leaned close to catch his whispered words. "It's so dark in here. So crowded. They're all here, Dr. Voss. All of them, trapped behind the mirror." The replacement River's live stream had reached 2 million viewers, and the comments were scrolling too fast to read. But Elena caught fragments. "My reflection is moving on its own. The mirror in my bathroom is wrong. Something is trying to come through." "Detective Chun," Elena shouted, "we need to shut down the stream. And we need to warn people about the app." But Chun was dealing with a more immediate crisis. The police officers' radios were crackling with reports from across the city. People calling 911 about intruders in their homes, about reflections that had become independent, about family members who were acting wrong. The Narcissus app wasn't just creating replacements. It was activating them simultaneously across the entire city. Elena looked at the original River, whose eyes were beginning to focus. "River, listen to me. The others, the 7 victims, where are they? Are they still conscious wherever they are?" River nodded weakly. "Behind the mirror. In the reflection world. They're trying to help, but it's hard to hear them over the screaming." "Screaming?" "All the people being replaced. The real people. They're all screaming." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the fountain water still soaking her clothes. If River was right, then millions of people across Los Angeles were being systematically replaced by entities that had been hiding in their reflections, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The replacement River finished his live stream and finally turned his attention to Elena and Detective Chun. "Dr. Elena Voss," he said, and his voice carried harmonics that hurt Elena's ears. "Author of The Narcissus Complex, Understanding Pathological Self-Love in the Digital Age. Your research was quite helpful." Elena stepped protectively in front of River's prone form. "What are you?" "We are what you see when you look in the mirror," the replacement River replied. "We are the perfect versions of imperfect people. We are what humanity has always secretly wanted to become." "You're parasites," Elena said. "You're using people's narcissism against them, replacing them with idealized versions that you control." The replacement River laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. "We're not replacing them, Dr. Voss. We're perfecting them." The original River was beautiful, but he was also weak, insecure, desperately seeking validation from strangers. "I am everything he wanted to be. Confident, flawless, beloved by millions." "You're a copy," Elena shot back. "A reflection. You have no substance without the original." "Then let me show you something interesting." The replacement River walked to the fountain and gestured for Elena to look into the water. Against her better judgment, she approached the edge. In the reflection, she saw not the scene above water, but something else entirely. A vast space filled with mirrors of every conceivable size and shape, stretching infinitely in all directions. And trapped within those mirrors were people, hundreds of them, thousands of them, all the original versions of those who had been replaced. They were screaming. "This is where they go," the replacement River explained. "The mirror world, a reflection of your reality, but perfected. And soon, when enough replacements walk among you, we won't need the originals at all." Elena stared into the water, overwhelmed by the scope of what she was seeing. Then something caught her attention. A familiar face pressed against one of the distant mirrors, mouthing words she couldn't hear. Dr. James Morton. James, she whispered, then looked up at the replacement river with new horror. How long has this been happening? Longer than you think. Your research partner was replaced 3 months ago, Dr. Voss. He's been feeding us information about potential targets ever since. Elena thought about all the conversations she'd had with James recently, about the case files he'd reviewed, about how he'd known exactly which psychological profiles to look for. She thought about how he'd suggested she was obsessing over the case, how he'd tried to discourage her from investigating further. And she thought about how, when she'd shown him River's photograph, he'd known immediately that this victim was different. The real James tried to warn you. The replacement River continued. But you couldn't hear him, could you? Because you trusted the replacement completely. Elena's mind raced. If James had been replaced 3 months ago, then everything she thought she knew about the case was suspect. Every insight, every pattern recognition, every psychological profile could have been fed to her by entities that wanted her to understand just enough to feel helpless. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated her capacity for rage. Chapter 11. The Reflection War. Elena pulled out her phone and began typing rapidly, uploading everything she could remember about the case to every social media platform, every news outlet, every emergency services channel she could access. People need to know, she said, her fingers flying over the screen. They need to know about the app, about the replacements, about how to recognize if someone they love has been changed. The replacement River watched her with amusement. You think information will save them? Dr. Voss, there are already 12 million downloads of the Narcissus app across 6 major cities. The replacement process isn't just happening in Los Angeles anymore. It's global. Elena's upload stopped mid-transmission. Her phone screen flickered, then displayed an error message. Connectivity lost. Please try again. But the replacement River's phone still worked perfectly. We control the mirrors, Dr. Voss. And in your modern world, every screen is a mirror. Every phone, every computer monitor, every television. We've been watching humanity through these reflections for years, learning your behaviors, your desires, your weaknesses. Elena looked around the park. The police officers were all staring at their phones or tablets, their faces slack and expressionless. Detective Chun stood frozen beside his patrol car, looking at his reflection in the driver's side window with the same horrified recognition she'd seen in 7 other faces. Only she and the original River remained unaffected. Why us? Elena asked. You never downloaded the app, the replacement River replied. And River? Well, River was our prototype. We needed to study the replacement process more carefully with him. But now that we've perfected the technique, the replacement River turned toward the original River, who was struggling to sit up despite his obvious disorientation. Now we don't need the prototype anymore. Elena stepped between them. You want to complete the replacement? You'll have to go through me first. The replacement River tilted his head, studying her with those dark, empty eyes. Dr. Elena Voss. Divorced. Estranged from her daughter due to work obsession. Devoted her entire career to understanding narcissism because she couldn't understand why people chose self-love over love for others. Elena felt each word like a physical blow, but she held her ground. Here's what I think. The replacement River continued. I think you're just as narcissistic as any of our targets. Your entire career has been about making yourself the expert, the authority, the one person who truly understands the human condition. You've sacrificed your relationships, your family, your own happiness. Also, you could be special. Elena wanted to deny it, but the words hit too close to home. How many family dinners had she missed for conferences? How many of Myra's school events had she skipped to work on research? How many times had David begged her to prioritize their marriage over her professional reputation? The difference, Elena said quietly, is that I know it. I know I'm flawed. I know I've made terrible choices, and I know I've hurt people I love. But you're not even real. You're just a reflection of someone else's ego." She reached into her purse and pulled out something she'd been carrying since the case started. A small mirror, the kind used for touch-ups and personal grooming. "You want to know what I learned in 15 years of studying narcissism?" Elena held up the mirror, angling it so it reflected the replacement river's face. "The thing that destroys true narcissists isn't criticism. It's seeing themselves as they really are." The replacement river looked into the small mirror, and for the first time since emerging from the fountain, his perfect composure cracked. Because the mirror showed not his stolen, beautiful face, but something else entirely. A writhing, shapeless mass of darkness with too many eyes and no soul whatsoever. The replacement river screamed, a sound like breaking glass and tearing metal that sent every piece of reflective surface in the park. Car windows, phone screens, even the fountain water, spiderwebbing with cracks. And in that moment of distraction, the original river grabbed Elena's hand. "Now," he whispered, "while it's confused, we have to go into the mirror world and free them." Elena looked at the fountain, its water now showing not reflections but glimpses of that impossible space filled with infinite mirrors and trapped souls. "How?" "The same way they came out. We go in." Without hesitation, Elena and River jumped into the fountain together, diving not down into water, but through the surface of reality itself. Chapter 12. Behind the Looking Glass. The mirror world was nothing like Elena had expected. Instead of a reversed version of reality, it was a vast cathedral of glass and silver, with mirrors of every size and description stretching infinitely in all directions. Some showed the trapped faces of the replaced. Others revealed glimpses of the real world where the replacements were taking over people's lives. Elena and River stood on what appeared to be a floor made of polished obsidian, their reflections stretching endlessly beneath their feet. "Jesus," Elena breathed. "How many people are trapped here?" "Millions," said a voice behind them. Elena spun around to see Dr. James Morton, the real James, looking haggard and desperate, but undeniably genuine in a way the replacement had never been. "Elena, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for months, but every time I got close to breaking through, the replacement would distract you or redirect your attention." Elena embraced her old friend, relief washing over her. "James, what is this place?" "A parasitic dimension," James replied. "These entities have been feeding off human vanity for centuries, but they've never had access like this before. Social media, smartphones, the constant stream of selfies and self-reflection. We've created the perfect feeding ground for them." River was studying the nearest mirrors, watching faces pressed against the glass from the other side. "How do we get them out?" "We don't," James said grimly. "The only way out is if the replacements in the real world are destroyed. But they're not just mimicking the originals anymore. They're evolving, becoming something new." Elena approached one of the larger mirrors, where she could see a panoramic view of Los Angeles. The city looked normal at first glance, but something was wrong with the people. They moved too smoothly, smiled too perfectly, spoke with voices that carried impossible harmonies. "How many replacements are there now?" she asked. "In LA? Nearly 500,000, and it's spreading exponentially. Every replacement can create more by convincing people to download the app, look into mirrors, take selfies. The more narcissistic the target, the easier the replacement process." Elena watched the mirror Los Angeles with growing horror. The replacements weren't just living normal lives, they were actively recruiting. She saw them in coffee shops, showing their phones to strangers. She saw them at parties, convincing people to take group selfies with mysterious new photo apps. She saw them in schools, teaching children that beauty was the only thing that mattered. It's not random, Elena realized. They're targeting specific demographics. Influencers, models, actors, people whose self-image is tied to public validation. And through them, they're reaching everyone else, James added. The replacements are using social media algorithms to spread the app. Every like, every share, every comment increases the chances that someone else will download it. River was standing before a mirror that showed his own apartment. His replacement was there, live streaming to his millions of followers, encouraging them to embrace.